Hello, everyone. I thought what I would do this week, instead of writing something out, would be to do this video recording. Um, I finished reading the material last night, and then I just finished reading Catherine's excellent summary. I think she was spot on with her summary. Um, she actually wrote about something that had been puzzling me, since the beginning of the studying of this material, or at least the beginning of the studying of the transits. And that is, what happens to the archetypal influence when the heavenly bodies, I think what we were looking at this time was Jupiter-Uranus, when they are no longer in alignment, that is, in conjunction, square, or in opposition. What happens to the archetypal influence? Does it just, you know, shrink down to zero, or uh, does it totally disappear? What happens to it? And I think Rick did a good job in the section that's titled, Music and Literature on page 317. I think he did a good job explaining how, that it doesn't die, that archetypal influence doesn't die, but rather it continues to undergo change. And quite honestly, that raised a question for me. If these archetypal influences are constantly undergoing change, then you know how should I view that? Uh, Say when Jupiter and Uranus become uh, in opposition, or they're in conjunction, or they're in square. Evidently, from what he's saying, from what Rick is saying, that that conjunction, that square, that opposition will not have the same archetypal meaning or influence this time around, because it's been, the influences have been changed, have been altered by perhaps interactions with other heavenly bodies. So that, I'm still a bit confused, and maybe someone can enlighten me on that. But at least one of the things that I learned was that, my curiosity about that was not necessarily absurd, that it was indeed, a valid consideration. And Rick did address it on that, and encourage it. I would encourage a close reading of page 317 if you've not done that. Now, one of the questions that Katherine asked pertained to the dangers of archetypal interpretation. What are the dangers? In my case, that's easy. In my case, it would be just, blatant stupidity, or ignorance, because I'm a novice at this, and so I have to have help. I go into books. I actually had an hour and a half session with Blake Baxley, who is a person that I highly recommend if you've never had a reading. And she answered all my questions. She was very patient with me, and for that I appreciate it. She's actually been through Rick's class, so she knows Rick quite well. So I thoroughly recommend her session. She video records it and puts it in a Dropbox so that you can spend time with it later on. So just ignorance. And the way to remove that ignorance is keep reading, keep asking questions, um, and just engage with the material. I have been really surprised that someone with a modern mind, moving toward a postmodern mind, as someone might describe me, has become so engaged with this material, because I have become quite engaged with this material. And I expect that I will continue to be engaged with this material for some time. When I was talking with Blake about, how she approached initially the study of archetypal astrology, and the word was just astrology when I spoke with her. She said she spent most of the first year just looking at her natal chart, studying it, looking at the ramifications associated with it, and so forth. So I think that's what I will be doing also. Now, I wanted to take this opportunity to recommend a couple of books. I was in a used bookstore on Monday. I had some time to kill, and so I wandered over to, we'll call it the astrology section of the used bookstore. And I was quite surprised to come across a big, thick book of over 500 pages by someone that Rick actually recommends as being someone that, that is somewhat of an expert in this area, an individual named Robert Hand. The book is Planets in Transit, Life Cycles for Living, and it's really quite replete with very meaningful information. It talks about, as the name implies, planets in transition, or in transit, I should say. And I've spent quite a bit of time browsing through it. Certainly haven't absorbed all there is to absorb about that book. Another author that Rick recommended is someone named Cornelius, Jeffrey Cornelius. And I ordered through Interlibrary Loan, I ordered one of his books called The Moment of Astrology, Origins and Divination. And I've had the chance, to spend some time with it, and it is quite good. I really, he is a very fine author. I don't know if he's still living or not, but he is, that was not a bad recommendation, that Rick gave us. So I won't make this long. I wanted to do something other than just writing something out. I wanted to, tell you, how I felt about this week's material. I've not had the chance to look at the video, but I certainly look forward to that. And once again, I want to thank Katherine for this very fine summary. It's spot on, and it's obvious that she spent a lot of time doing that, and for that, I do indeed highly recommend it. Thank you so much.